Kids, we're back. I'm actually doing episode 25, part two this morning. Um, we have here my good friend, Dane Enrico. Everybody knows Enrico. Obviously, he's the head of strategy at DSM. Um, but we are here today in a different fashion because we are with Dan to do Homage number 25, part two. Dan, welcome, or Enrico, or Brotato Chip, or Mr. Poopy Pants, or whatever you want, we got here.
Well,
Welcome to the show. Thanks for coming on. Obviously, I know you're extraordinarily busy, but I felt it was the perfect time to do this episode, not only because of the history that we've had, but your story. It is, I I always go back to when we talk, and you're like, you kept me on hold for a year, man.
yeah.
Um, but it was all a part of the plan. And one of the things that I am most in awe of you about is your faith, is your the way you handle yourself, and that's from the standpoint of like coming from a workplace. Over the last few years, we know there's been many different things going on at Casa de Enrico, and so that's something that's probably the main reason that I wanted to have you on the show. Other than the fact that you know I love you to death as a person and what you stand for and who you are, but your perseverance, the character you show, just how you are as a human being, um, really is the focal point of what I want people to get out of this episode. So, welcome to episode 25. Thank you for coming on. Thank you for taking time out of your day to spend with with us and the audience today.
Uh,
Um,
it's my pleasure. Thank you for those kind words. Yeah, I could say just as many about you, but I know this is your show, so I'm gonna let you I'll let you drive, but thank you very much. It's an
yeah, but
honor.
you actually run the strategy behind the show, so technically it's our show. Um, So tell us a little bit about like go back to like the chunk from the Goonies like type thing. Like how did it all start? Like what was your um as you were coming up, I know that were once a meat eater and now you're not, and you were into to heavy metal and all these different things. Like what makes Dane tick?
Yeah, I would say, I don't know, from I got into like metal. I was like a metal kid since like fifth grade. I first heard Ride the Lightning by Metallica, and I was like, oh my gosh. And then like White Zombie and a bunch of other stuff after that. Um, but I think especially into like college, I started to really just think about like purpose and why do you do the things you do and what really matters and like what are your values and um my values on and points of view on some things have changed over time, but I'm always kind of going back to like what's really important, like what really matters. And so yeah, I've been a vegetarian for I guess 15, 16 years, maybe more. Um, and for like animal rights purposes, I guess I saw like videos of a slaughterhouse at a Rise Against concert and went like cold turkey from there. I was vegan for like maybe a year, but I missed pizza. And so morally, I consider myself inconsistent on that. But, in principle, I understand veganism. I just can't actually put it into practice. So like that's kind of a big part of I guess my values. It's not as big a part. I used to go to the supermarket and take like your milk has pus in it stickers from like PETA and put it on people's gallons of milk and like put them on all the displays. And I was a pretty rebellious guerrilla protesting type of uh, person, I guess, in that point in my life. But I don't do that as much as I used to, or at all.
Did it change when you had little girls, or was it just you just wanted pizza?
Yeah, just wanted pizza. So I'm still vegetarian, but I'm not as militant about it as I used to be. Um, but yeah, I don't know. As you get married, have kids, family and like family values and things like that are more important to me. Um, I used to never think that I could work at a for-profit company, as I worked at a nonprofit for 9 years. And I was like, listen, if I'm going to spend 8 hours a day doing something, like it better, do some good for the world. And that's good. And I still get that. If you would have told me that I'd work at a for-profit marketing agency helping the kind of businesses we help, a 20-something-year-old Enrico would have been like, oh, hell no, absolutely not. I'm not going to spend my time doing that. But I've found I've kind of evolved that mindset where you actually build relationships with these people and the clients that you're helping. And, we have some really big clients and some, small local clients. But as you meet these people, you realize if I can help their business grow, I'm helping their family, I'm helping them do well as people. And that becomes meaningful too, because you're not just helping faceless corporations, like you're building relationships with people and you're helping them and their families. And so there's actually a lot of satisfaction in that. And then I found other ways to kind of, change the world from like um, that sort of nonprofit mindset. There's other ways that you can do that besides your 9 to 5. So I've kind of evolved some of my mindset over the last few years, certainly while being here at DSM. So yeah, that's kind of part of what makes me tick. Though is I want to, I think about what am I doing with my life and with my time, and how am I having an impact? How am I reaching people? Um, how am I hopefully leaving the world a little bit better than I found it? So yeah, it's definitely part of what makes me tick, but how I kind of do that has definitely evolved over the last probably 15, 20 years.
That's interesting because one of the big reasons hindsight's 2020, but you're going on what now? 5 years at DSM? 6 years?
4.5.
4.5 years, going on to 5 years. And in those 5 years, like collectively, it's been like 45 years. Seems in like real time. Uh,
Yeah.
but there's certain people and certain things that happen in your life. And I'm convinced that again, you sit there and you're like, the joke is like hindsight's 2020, and you know, everything happens for a reason. I am literally convinced that when I don't know if I would have appreciated the aura of Enrico 12 years ago, even 8 years ago.
Hmm.
When you find someone that impacts your life the way you have, not only from like a rudimentary, we laugh, we just laugh. Like there's a lot of dumb shit that happens that we just laugh.
Yeah.
And I think that perspective was something that, um, from our little bored and setting goals that because of pizza and ice cream and eating, we will never reach. I mean, Clayton will reach them, but I mean, you did too. I haven't. I did run 10 miles. I'll give me that. But certain things happen at certain points of your life when a truly impactful person comes in, and like the difference is noticeable. Like you can there was a lot of good things that happened pre Enrico, but like AE, it's been light years different because watching you and how you've handled yourself in both good situations and bad situations, and how you've taken, you know, um, things that have happened in both of our lives and put them into perspective and just listen. Um, that is a trait that not many people have, including myself. I would love to be a better listener, and I work at it every day. I don't excel at it.
Hmm.
Um, we've had some heart to hearts. We've had some heartfelt conversations. We've had some things that go beyond work that, um, hopefully, to your point, will impact our lives 40 years down the road, where we're sitting in like a rocking chair in a diaper, like we could sit there and be like, hey, remember this, or hey, remember that. And um, there's not many people in my life that I can say that about. Um, with regards to the work ethic you have, because Enrico's dad, it's hilarious. He's the best social media person I know. I don't
Yep.
I don't know how else to say it. The literalness of Dennis Enrico and how he makes points in wonderful brushstrokes of just literalness. Like, I don't know how else to say it. It is amazing, but the foundations were built for you. You could tell, a long time ago with your family, and how you kind of bring that to work and bring that to the people around you. Um, with regards to the career that you've built and how you're doing it and why it's impactful, like, what stands out for you? Because you've had a diverse career. You've been at nonprofits where you're doing stuff, and you've been at, for a for-profit now for almost 5 years. And for the audience, and maybe for the young people that are out there, like, what are the things you've taken away that are like, these are really important? That's a big part of this, what I want to convey. It's a big part of
Yeah.
like the mentoring part of it. But what for you were the most important parts of like working at a nonprofit and then working for a for-profit, and that evolution? I think that's really important because people get stuck. So how is that transformed for you, and why is that important?
Yeah. So if you're going to spend at least 40 hours a week doing something, whether it's for profit, nonprofit, whatever, you want to have some sense of satisfaction in it. Whether that's, you really appreciate the mission of what you're doing, or you appreciate the people you're doing it with. I think every workplace has different probably layers of that. Like maybe you really love the mission, but you don't so much love the people, or you love the people, but you don't really care about the mission. And that's okay. It's going to ebb and flow at every workplace, and even like evolutions within workplaces. Like you've seen many DSMs before I even got here. And I feel like there have been many DSMs since I've been here as people come and go and teams change. And there's almost like these eras. And I think what you appreciate about the eras changes, and the people and what you're doing every day. So you want to have some level of satisfaction, I think. But for young people, and they're coming into a totally different job market than even I did, like, I guess 15, 16 years ago, they're coming into a totally different world. But I guess what I would say is like, look for places where one, you feel appreciated. You feel like the people there want to grow you and not use you. I think people sometimes come into jobs and they're just like a cog in the machine, and we just, output, 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 output. But from above, you're not getting input. And I know there's specific people throughout my career in different positions that I know are like, man, this is somebody who's investing in me and who's trying to see me grow. And they're pushing me, but they're also like giving me the resources that I need to succeed while they push. Some employers, I think, just push and they don't give you any resources or any help, and you kind of end up drowning. So I'd say look for a place, and I think DSM is huge on this. It's like, are people teaching you? Are they investing in you? Are they saying like, listen, I know where your weak spots are, and I want to make you strong there? I think that's what you need to look for in a career. Like you could grow by leaps and bounds if you have the right environment. Like I've been at DSM for less than 5 years. And the amount that I've grown in those less than 5 years is more than I've grown in the 10 of my career that preceded it. And that has to do with environment and culture and just kind of the ethos of where you work. So you could grow a lot in the right environment, or you could be kind of like, I don't know, stuffed down and stifled in the wrong environment. So I'd say those are some things to look for career wise. Look for people that are going to invest in you, that want to see you grow, that are going to trust you. Sometimes even trust you to just push you off the cliff, so to speak, and fight or flight, or flight or crash into the ground, whatever it is.
Uh,
But like sometimes you just gotta take that leap of faith with somebody and just, all right, go do the next thing. And you guys did that with me. Like bringing me up to the director spot when I'd only been here like a year and a half or less. And you just gotta, push, but provide the resource and the help to, help somebody succeed. And that's what I think makes a great workplace. You grow people internally, push them and give them resources and make them better. So
Yeah, the what you speak about with regards to the iterations of DSM, I think has been probably for me one of the best and least best parts of it. Um, so many changes, so many, like I'm sort of a creature of habit, so it gets a little sometimes it gets a little scary when you're going through it. Even with things, very simply, like things we've seen over the last, you worry about people that come in and out, not worry about people, but like you're worrying about their situation. For instance,
mhm.
Kathleen having a baby and like, oh my gosh, like, are you, especially as a first time mom, you're like, is she gonna be able to come back and do all the things and do the things that, you saw prior to all that. And you find out a lot about people. I think, similar to, you know, the situation, with regards, a few years ago that came up that now, Naomi and you are turning into like, by the way, your reels and stuff on Instagram for Busca Luz is fantastic. I mean,
That's all her. That's all her.
the post office one, well, the post office one with you yesterday being like, what's up? Come on.
Yeah.
Um, but it's amazing to see resiliency. It's amazing to see how people react. For me, that's actually probably the most fun I have in the job is that, like we preach, like best idea wins. Like I don't have all the answers. I'll be the
Mhm.
first one to say it. Um, that was a big part of everything that went into sort of the turmoil of 2019 was getting out of my own way. And I put a lot on myself, obviously. I mean, to lead, but like when you sort of came into my life and that faith component of like, it's not all on you, dude. Like
Mhm.
we're in it together and like God's got a part in this and you have to do you. Like we need you to be you, but we don't need you to do everything all the time.
Mhm.
And so that part of it, that faith and that component really changed not only me, but changed my outlook on how things happen.
Yeah.
So, you were there with some pretty dark times and some pretty dark conversations that were like, this is not good at all. Like, and it must have been like it was scary for me. You must have been like, oh my God, like what's up with this dude?
No, honestly, and I think that's the fear that a lot of people have that like, oh, I can't let people see this part of me because I'm gonna freak them out or whatever. And for me, like I'm an open book and it's very hard to make me blush. So like I'm down to talk with anybody about anything. And that's part of that like having an impact thing that I want to do more of is like have those types of conversations where it's like, okay, let's not have this inch deep relationship conversation. Like let's just put it all on the table and like let's talk about depression and anxiety and let's talk about hardships and let's get serious about it because that's how you can really like impact somebody's life. But as long as you're like this deep, you're never really going to get to like the everybody is dealing with like such deep core issues of like sadness and joy and purpose and identity and people are like wrestling with this by themselves and you see it like expressed in their lives in different ways but it's like they never talk to people about it. I think a lot of the conversations we had dealt with like yeah identity of like who I am, is it tied to like the success of the business or is it tied to this and everybody does this, right? It's like the town I live in and the car I drive and how much money I make and my job title and how my kids are and my kids achievements and all of that. Like when you base your identity on that stuff, it's just such thin ice
Mhm.
because any of those things can go like that. Um, and so yeah, from a faith component, like when your identity is like, you know what, I don't care necessarily the world's perception of me based on all those categories. Like, I know I got a God that loves me unconditionally and thinks I'm incredible and I'm a treasure. Like, okay, my identity is based in that. So when business falls out, that's all right. It doesn't mean like I'm a failure, or my kids aren't quite right. Okay, I have trouble in my marriage. Like, all right, that's going to happen. But at least I know like there's a God-centered perspective where like doesn't mean I'm trash, doesn't mean I'm a loser, doesn't mean anything. I have a place to go to get help. But if you look at the world standards, it's like, oh, that's your car, that's your house, that's where you live, that's your income, that happened to your business. Of course, there's a million perceptions in the world that's going to make you feel like trash, and people are fighting tooth and nail to keep up a perception or an identity that people will say like, oh wow, look at you, look at those kids, look at that marriage. I don't know. You got to get beyond that and like let's get real and get serious with each other, because like we all have insecurities and hardship and sadness and anxiety and like yeah, just be real. And when you can have those real conversations with people, like the relationship like ours becomes like something unlike a lot of people have. Um, and that's how you can really change the world. And like the stuff that we've been through, how that impacts our wives, right? And the things we've talked about, how we operate in our families as men, how we operate in our business, how we are going to treat our kids and raise our kids, and how we're looking at each other like, oh, look at what Darren just did with his kids. That's a great idea. I'm going to do that too. And but you have to like get below the surface to really have an impact at that kind of level.
Oh, and let's be real here. I mean, we all have. There are moments in time when I want to throw the kids out the window. Let's just we'll call it straight. Like I love, the kids are together, and they're about the same ages and things like that. Like there are moments where you're like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
What are you doing? What are you doing? But I think it's getting back to your point again about having that relationship, having that conversation. Again, it's like a place in my life where my whole outlook on things has changed, through conversations with you, through talking with you, through, just the idea of like, if nothing's tied to the identity, like I was I wasn't a failure. Like in my mind at that point I was, and that was something that I had to go through in order to get to the other end and to be able to see it and to be able to understand what it is and to become just a little bit more even keeled. I wouldn't say I'm excelling at being even keeled yet, but
I feel like you're much more even.
what?
That's why you're more even keeled now.
Yeah, maybe like 1/10, but but really it's having the understanding, like with some of the things that, we're going through right now with the company, like a lot of good stuff, some crappy stuff. You deal with it and you have to do what you have to do. And being sort of at the top, it's setting that example. One of the things I really learned about you, and I remember you hammering this home, when we were having discussions in 2019 was, like you're you're all right. You're all right. You're gonna be all right. And at that point, I didn't feel very all right, at all. But it was a testament to your calmness, your demeanor, what you did, how you did it, how you went about it, knowing that. And the other part of it too was knowing that I had somebody that actually, in a time, it felt like there were very few people who cared. Like it was just like you talk about being alone. You
Mm,
feel like you're out on an island alone, and you're like, why am I doing this? What am I doing? Like all the things that I thought I was doing okay, because we built something from nothing, which was cool. But as it gets bigger, it gets harder, and you're not prepared for some of the things that you think, you know, when we first started this, it was like, whatever, 50 million in like 2 years, we're good. Be like 50 people. It'll be super easy.
mm,
And only through hardships do you get an understanding of like, oh wow, this is important and this is real, and we're gonna all get through this together. Um, I want to bring to light, and you can speak to this as much as you want to, but through, your and Naomi's relationship and the business she's starting now, which, you can plug and say whatever, but take us through like how the last few years have impacted you, have because for me and seeing, going through the journey with you guys, it's like all the love and all the respect. I mean, I just, you know, from minute one when the whole when it kind of all went down. But take us through that a little bit as much as you feel comfortable doing, because I think what now is happening, and I think this is a core tenet of you and how you put yourself in my life, how you put yourself in Naomi's life, and you're seeing things happening that like the value system that you speak about
Mhm.
is now taking shape in like many different people. So like what you're doing and what you're trying to do and get that relationship and go deeper, and you're seeing it now in different people around you, and you should really feel good about it. I don't know how else to say that without sounding weird, but like you should, you're actually living out what you say, and there's very few people who do that. So,
Yeah.
you know, tell us what that means to you guys and your family.
Yeah, it's been really transformative. I asked Naomi a few months ago, like, if you could go back and not have this breast cancer experience happen, would you take, like, if you could just go through your, early 30s without this, would you? And she was like, I don't want it to happen again, and I wouldn't wish it on anybody. But there were a lot of things that we learned and a lot of ways that we grew as a result that we wouldn't want to lose. There were a lot of experiences, like, of course, in general, it was horrible, but there were also a lot of great things and great memories and learning moments and things that, like, we're very thankful for. And I don't say that in just like a cheesy way, but there's just certain things that, like, people stepped up and served us in ways that, like, they wouldn't have had to if the situation didn't happen. And so, like, I'm glad, people were doing that for us. And then, yeah, we grew closer. Um, we learned a lot about each other, and we've kind of both had our perspective shift as a result. So some things, like, we'll look at and we'll say, is this really that important? Does it really matter? Is it worth getting upset over? Not really. And there's a lot of stuff that we just kind of like just don't even get concerned about. Um, and then there was sort of like, okay, halfway through chemo, I asked her, what do you want to do when this is all over? And she's always held sort of like administrative jobs. She was once a zookeeper, but aside from that, she's done sort of administrative work at a few different places. She's very good at it. She's very organized and very, meticulous about the details. So she's great. But
Naomi was a zookeeper.
yeah, she was at Van Son. She studied animal science. I know. I love telling that story because I think it's so
I
cool.
had no clue Naomi was a zookeeper.
Yeah, so she studied animal science. She worked as a zookeeper at Van Son for maybe a year or so. But yeah, like shoveling bison poop and feeding mountain lions, and it's like all sorts of cool stuff. But after that, she did like a lot of it, like administrative work, and again, very detail oriented and meticulous. So she was really good at it. But she's like, this isn't like my passion. And she said, I always wanted to do something creative because she's always had a very artistic side that she's never, it's kind of been a hobby, but she's never like fully done it. Um, and she wanted to work for herself, and she wanted to do something that gave back. And with the kids being young, she always kind of had a feeling like, all right, I need to work the jobs I need to work to make sure like we can pay for the kids' childcare and their schooling and this and that. But with this, cancer experience, she was like, all right, if there's ever a time to like really shift and change course, like this is it. So, the idea for Boost Loose was born, and she just spent a ton of time just learning. And, it feels like sometimes it was like a lifetime ago, but she, started learning how to use Procreate and how to draw and how to make her designs. And then she learned, how to get the shirts she's going to use and pick manufacturers. And then she's learning how to build a Shopify website. Now she's learning the social media side of things. And I told her, I was like, just go on YouTube, go on the internet. You're going to learn, everything you need to know. It's out there. You just need to find the time, be dedicated, and do it. And she's super dedicated, and she's just picking up this and learning that. Sometimes she gets a little frustrated, like, I don't know how to do this. I'm not, and I'm like, look how much you've learned. Like, you can do this too. Like, just, push through. You're going to get it. And the business is launched. She's making sales. She's donating to a foundation that's important to us. So it's really taking shape. But yeah, I think through that whole thing, it's like my role in the world and in this family is to love and serve people. Obviously, first and foremost, my wife, you, our coworkers, our neighbors, like that's the most important thing. And so now it's become like I'm just like her biggest cheerleader, like you got this, like you can do this, like keep going, let's go, let's push. And yeah, so it feels like it was again like a lifetime ago, but it was only December 2020. So it's not even like 2 years ago. So it's been wild, very unexpected, but we wouldn't trade it. We don't want to do it again, but we're very thankful for a lot of
Yeah, I'm on board with that.
yeah.
Let's take what we've learned. Let's take all those fond memories, but let's move forward and let's keep that in the rear view as an inflection point, as a moment of the beginning of a new process and learning. But yeah, let's not do that. Naomi, let's let's not go back to shoveling bison poop. That really that's like that's crazy. It's
Yep.
crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy, crazy, crazy. Um, well, again, like I said, a tremendous amount of love and respect to you guys. The posts that you're doing, what you and Naomi are doing, what she is bringing to life, how she's giving back. Um, just tremendous, just tremendous. Olivia actually this morning, it's been like 115 degrees every day. So this morning with the new Jeep, we took I had to go pick up one of Olivia's friends. The kids all went to camp, and it was, starting to feel like September. Thank goodness. I
Yeah.
was like thrilled this morning, and it was a little chilly on the cars. So Olivia decided to wear her new Buscaloo sweatshirt uh,
Nice.
in the car at the top of the hill day camp, and it was cool to see. It was cool to see that, how through one company, another company is being born and like doing stuff and it's I don't know. It's just it's indirectly through something that when you build something, and she'll see this as she grows the business, when you see the impact of like what you're doing, and it's not something that's like money related, or it's just like there, and people are thriving and people are helping and like passions are being fueled, and
Mhm.
you know I mean, every day at DSM is not like a box of donuts. It's like there's some days where you're like, okay. But overall, I would say that since you have come into the company, and again, there's been some wild adventures and like really crazy stuff that I don't know if you thought you'd ever see. I definitely didn't think I was going to see, but
No.
um, it's been a tremendous ride, and how you've grown, how you've become, like it's funny when you see somebody, because where you came from, like you said, a nonprofit. I mean, it's a nonprofit, but it was a pretty big nonprofit, and you're coming.
Mhm.
It's like for me, when you came here, it almost felt like a step back for you. I was like, why would you want to come here? I always have that. I always say that about people. Like, you have people that come from all different places and all different walks of life and different parts of their career. And some people come from big places and other people come from smaller places, and you're like, why do you want to come here?
Mhm.
Like, and that's, I'm not saying it like, I just, I always had that perception because it was the way I was. I guess I've gotten into, I don't know, you probably haven't. I don't know how big of a Yankee fan you are, but I was really watching. The last night was the finale of The Captain, Derek Jeter thing. It was like a 7-part series that they did on his career from like growing up all the way to, where he is now, and in retirement and as a Hall of Famer. And there's moments in there where his career, I thought about it last night because they kind of did like a retrospective. He started his career, he got a call up in 95 in the postseason, I believe, was when he was a rookie. And it brought me back because I remember Don Mattingly. It was Don Mattingly's last year in the Yankees, and he had never made it to the world to the postseason because the Yankees just sucked during like the 80s and 90s. And then you had this kid coming up as like a 19-year-old, and he was going to be the new face of the franchise, and it was like two errors. And for me, when I saw that, it was like reliving my childhood, but it was like there was some happiness and some sadness because when he started that postseason, that was my first postseason. That was my first year in college, and that's when my dad passed away. So it was like the connecting of two worlds, but it was like almost it was like living it out on a TV screen again because it took you back to that moment. And there's so many moments in time that I guess when I'm in my 80s and I look back at this, there were so many people that made the journey exceptional and difficult, and so many happy times and so many weird times and so many sad times, and just things that you're knitting together like a quilt of memories that at some point. And what Derek Jeter, this was like where I was going with it. Derek Jeter was really good at compartmentalizing his emotions. So you never saw, he was like unflustered all the time. Like never showed him, like the day he retired, his last game at Yankee Stadium, he got the game winning hit, and like the crowd was chanting. And it was like the only, like he didn't even well up. Like like how? That's amazing to me.
Yeah.
Um, and being able to have somebody like you in my life, to be able to show vulnerability, to be able to just be okay with being okay sometimes, is a tremendous asset that I think a lot of people don't have, or don't have the ability to show. And that was me prior to having you in my life. So to that, thank you. That was the whole purpose of this. Thank you for being you. Thank you for being a tremendously caring individual. Thank you for being there, for being present for people, not just for me, but for, I speak to the context of like DSM. I know how much you mean to the team. Um, you know, I kind of, because my initials are on the door, it's kind of like you got to lead by proxy. But you are most definitely like a big part of the heartbeat of the company, and I'm very thankful for that. Um, and so I'm going to give you the last word. We are almost done with episode 25.
Wow.
Thank you for what you do. Thank you for what you mean. You have the last word. Like in Hot Ones, I'm Sean Evans now. I'm turning it over. This camera, this camera, this camera. Dan Enrico, tell the people what you're doing.
All right. Well, I guess I'll just close with, I've told you, and I feel like I tell you guys every few months how much I appreciate coming to a place like DSM, where I know everybody from the top down loves me, loves my family. I'm like, if we were ever in a bind, like, no, we were. And just like the way you guys just showed up beyond what you would ever expect from an employer. So many people were like, as friends, they came to us as friends and as family. And that's something that's really special. And that's something that, DSM is going to be about that for years to come. So I'm thankful to find a place like DSM, and what it's meant for me, for my family, like cannot put into words. And that's the place that you've built, and you've built it to be this. I know, like, you've told your founder story countless times, and 15 years later, like, I'm reaping the benefits of what you wanted to found this place to be. So thank you for that. And I would just, I guess, last thing is like, man, if more people would have that willingness to be open, transparent, and like get below that surface, like we all have stuff that we're dealing with that's weighing heavy on us. And so I'm thankful that you one day were like, dude, can we talk? Like, I need to talk to somebody. I'm thankful that you just took that step, because that's what really like opened the floodgates of the rest of this relationship and all the change. It just started with you saying like, "Hey man, can we talk? Like, can we get real here?" So I appreciate that you did that, and hopefully more people will learn from that. Because that's what the world needs, I think, man. People will really be transformed once they just kind of open up and find that somebody to talk to. So very honored, not just to be featured in this homage, but to be where I am in your life and in DSM. Total honor. So thank you.
I don't think, well, two things. One, I will go on record to say I think I got the first thing that Busca ever made with those glasses, which was one of the, when you guys showed up at our house on a Saturday night in like February, that was probably one of the nicest things anybody's ever done. I was floored by it. So everybody on here, I got the first thing Busca ever made. Yeah, what's up? Those glasses. And I can pretty much with 100% certainty, you make it sound like when I was like, oh, can we talk, man? Like, it was not like that. It was like, oh my God, dude, I need help. Like now. So, whether you're in a place of calm, quasi calm, or DEFCON 1, I think, is the best way to put it. You have been a extraordinarily important gift in my life, in my family's life, and I will be forever thankful to do that. So,
Likewise.
well, let's keep going, bro.
All right, bro. So what are we going to do in the next 5 years?
But the next 5 days. No, you know what? All right. Next 5 years, I would like to. I would like to have the group of people that we have in a work context um, figure out a way to. I think we do a really good job of helping people and of creating relationships with regards to our clients, like you said, to really expand on that and to put something together that is like it, not like a podcast per se, but something tangible to
Mhm.
like reflect on it, like almost like a time capsule type piece that you can put together that shares experiences from people that go back as far as Ralph, all the way to, you know, our newest clients, whoever they are, whether it's pediatric orthopedic or cover whale or whatever, the 2022 clients.
Mhm.
Because I think that in showcasing that, to your point about meeting people where they are, I think that has been the story of DSM. And the reason we've been successful is because we've met people where they are. Some people need us for a lot. Some people need us for a little. But building on that and not pushing people into corners and not making it, painful. I think everybody on our team does a really good job of taking that taking the empathetic approach to like understanding and listening. If everybody could take that empathetic listening approach and apply that to all parts of their life, to your point, I think it would be a much better place. So I'd say figure out a way to do some sort of book that'll give people a blueprint, not like a business blueprint, but like a life blueprint. You know, you can take a lot of the lessons of learning in business and apply that to your personal life and vice versa. You could take sometimes the lessons of your personal life and apply them to what you have going on in business. And I think when you can figure out a way to have those 2 points come together, it allows you to apply lessons learned, and they don't become like business lessons or personal lessons. They become like life lessons.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that approach is important to finding success in any part of your life. You know, whether it's me coaching, Luca's football team, trying to instill in a bunch of 11 and 12-year-olds how important it is. Like these, you want to jerk around, like, but what you do in practice is how you're going to perform in a game. Like preparation is important, and I know it gets lost on. I was probably the same way. Like, dude, I'm with my buddies. Like jerking around on a field, but it really is important. If you guys want to win, if you guys want to do well, and to the flip side of that, if you want to do well and you're going to play on a team sport, you might have to sacrifice some stuff. Not everybody can be a quarterback. Not everybody can be a running back. Not everybody can be a wide receiver.
Mm-hmm.
So on the flip side of that is understanding those things. There are certain things that I had to, we'll end it here, but there are certain things in understanding if we were going to be successful as a collective that I had to know that I had to sacrifice and turn over to other people because they were better at it than me. I have to fill a role, and that role is vital because there's certain components that only I can do or do well. And on the flip side of it, whether it be strategy, whether it be finances, whether it be operations, those are not my strengths. I mean, I could do them, I could dabble in them, I could be just dangerous enough. Why do I want to be just dangerous enough? Like, let's put everybody together, have everybody row in the boat in the same direction, and look what that's meant for the last 3 to 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's a big part of it. But Dan, thank you obviously for coming on. Like I said, I know you're very busy, and and thank you for just being you. It's important for me to tell you and for you to know that, because without you, life would have been exponentially harder over the last few years. So love you, pal. Thank you.
Love you. Thank you, dude. Appreciate it.
Cool.
Till next time.
All right.